Smells like psychotic anguish and teen spirit. It's the Bipolar Index for cataloging madness, and today we're flipping to F. Sense and sensibility. Sense and nonsense. Fragrances can evoke a lot. When I was researching the intersections between fragrance and madness, I came across two works of fiction. One was The Sweet Smell of Psychosis, a 1996 novella by English author Will Self. And the other was the 1985 novel Perfume, The Story of a Murderer by German author Patrick Suskind. Said to be one of Kurt Cobain's favorite books, Suskind's Perfume inspired Nirvana's Scentless Apprentice. But I'll be focusing on Self's Sweet Smell today, which, by the way, is very much a cult intellectual work, not nearly as internationally famous as Suskind's Perfume. But why are we focusing on frenzied fragrances? I guess I'd say fragrances and psychosis share a structural relationship. Both have internal mechanisms that are invisible. Both have the potential for intense sensory meaning. Both can alter relations between self, memory, and reality. Smells, like delusions or hallucinations, can become supercharged with symbolic, emotional, and existential significance. I wouldn't say that perfume is a metaphor for psychosis, but it could offer a similar way of knowing and being in the world that pushes past rationality. Psychosis offers a collapse of our ability to filter stimuli. So what is normally background noise becomes unbearably brought forward. Similarly, smells can be experienced as messages, signs, or proofs of something. They're rarely neutral sensations. Something must always be communicated. This mirrors how perfume functions culturally. It's invisible and subjective, but boy, is it emotionally undeniable. One spray of Sécrétion Magnifique and you'll know how you feel about animalic notes. I think that's enough runway to move the focus onto Self's Sweet Smell. To give some context, it mainly seeks to satirize tabloid hack journalists. There didn't seem anything uniquely press-like about the characters. Instead, it seemed like just a vicious critique of the sort of amoral dopamine chasers who are in every walk of life. Richard Hermes is the main character, a features writer who has been caught up in the vortex of young journalists who revolve around a character named Belle. Belle is a media presence, and he's known for casting a wide net sexually. But Richard falls in lust with Ursula Bentley, a icy blonde who hangs around with this crowd and wears a particular perfume that really impacts his desire. Because of his cocaine habit, he descends deeper and deeper into a paranoid drug-induced haze, in which everyone around him seems to resemble Belle. When I first read that Richard's last name was Hermes, I thought it was a heavy-handed reference to luxury scents, and cocaine as his demise seemed fitting in that it's inhaled through the nose. But I think there's more there. If you remember from our B entry for Birdsong, Hermes, the Greek god for thresholds, was mentioned for his role as psychopomp. He was ushering folks from the land of the living through the river Styx into the lands of the underworld. But thresholds here take perhaps another meaning, between sanity and madness, structured around cocaine psychosis and olfactory hallucination. Perfume, in the mythic sense, is also hermetic in that it's kind of a messenger substance. It travels invisibly, carrying information that might be highly personal. In Self's novella, scent functions as a metaphor, projection, and architecture of obsession, addiction, and hallucination. It becomes the medium through, once again, reality destabilizes. Cocaine and perfume share a route of entry, both are inhaled and both alter perception. Cocaine heightens pattern recognition, significance, and paranoia, while perfume can be erotically charged or evoke the past. So that's where drug-induced psychosis and fragrance really converge. Each produces a reality that feels more vivid than the ordinary world, and still each is chemically fleeting. The choice of Jicky by Guerlain deepens this instability. Jicky was a perfume created in 1889 and was often described as one of the first modern perfumes that innovatively used both synthetic and natural raw materials. It's a perfume with sweet vanillic warmth. Historically, it's been worn by both men and women and refuses gender categorization, but leans masculine. Within the novella's atmosphere of psychological slippage, Jicky then becomes a queer object, not in terms of simply sexuality, but in its refusal of binary logic. Jicky evokes volatility, gender ambiguity, and chemical modernity. So let's say that Hermes is kind of illusionary and Jicky operates kind of on the felt sense. They all kind of swim between these categories, messenger and trickster, masculine and feminine, sanity and delusion. So Richard's last name, Hermes, effectively labels him as someone trapped in compulsive meaning making, where perfume is not just a fragrance, but text that cocaine amplifies interpretation. But the queering element of the novella, and maybe even the portrayal of psychosis as a plot device in the reveal at the end, really disappointed me. In its final scenes, Richard thinks he's laying with Ursula, but the jicky gets mistranslated in delivery, and the hallucination lifts, and he realizes he's actually laying with Belle. This reveal felt pretty exploitative because it hinged on deception, sexual coercion, and humiliation as a mechanism of shock. It's an old trope where queerness aligns with trickery and predation, an eye roll of a literary move. Queerness as duplicitous, dangerous, and morally contaminating is historically entangled with homophobic anxieties about hidden desire and exposure. It feels more homophobic than subversive. Perhaps one generous reading is that Self is critiquing straight masculine fragility. The narrator falls apart when faced with sexual ambiguity. The Hermes trickster element suggests he's undone by his own assumptions. But if the story encourages readers to mock or recoil from queerness instead of questioning his projections, the satire fails. Also, the reveal works double duty in that the element of psychosis paints the narrator as unreliable. He's been reading scents, bodies, and social cues through a paranoid, cocaine-fueled lens. And the ending makes the reader just as disoriented as he is. The book doesn't offer a textured or even insider rendering of psychosis. It's honestly pretty stylized and utilized. The paranoia, the reality suspension, it's all a narrative device. Real psychosis is often more than just heightened meaning, but a terrifying loss of coherence to the world around you. I wish we got more of the aftermath of the narrator's cognitive breakdown. What was the cost for him? What was his recovery? And where do we go from here?